We do have to shame Polaris a bit, John, as well. I mean, banning Dawnbreaker, very, very upsetting stuff. It's always that one team, right? Like the new patch comes out, new hero gets allowed in captain's mode, and there's always that one team that's just like, nope, not happening, not today. Very, very upsetting stuff here from Polaris Esports, but I guess I can't blame them. I think earlier on, I was seeing Army Geniuses was running it in a different tournament, and I believe it didn't really work in their favor, unfortunately, but in classic Dawnbreaker fashion, it did look very strong for the first, 15, 20 minutes, and then started to slowly drop off. So hopefully we'll get to see some Dawnbreaker tonight, John, during the Pro Series. I'm looking forward to seeing what different teams and players come up with here for tonight. Still, Snapfire comes out. Interesting pickup here from Polaris Esports. I believe there were some changes made to Dawnbreaker. I'm just trying to have a look now. They nerfed her kisses, right? I know that.
Snapper? Yeah.
Snapfire, yep.
Yeah, they
Did I
dropped
say
down
Dawnbreaker?
the reach. Yeah, you
Okay.
slip of the tongue, as you know, we are looking for that hero. Yeah, the snap had its regen increased, base regen, and kisses down by half a second, so not as long for channel time, which is unfortunate, as you're missing out on maybe a fraction of your DPS. Should still be strong. I'm keen to see what exactly they do with the Snapfire. It does give them some minus armor now with her E, so you can kind of just try to melt down the opposing core. For SMG, they go into the Alc, right? Like the Avenge Alc combinations online. They've got the minus armor to play with. They've got the Abaddon for protection. So it's still somewhat open as to... No, actually, no. It should just be the Alchemist support. So just the Alcon support, Avenge offlane, likely the Kotl mid, unless Polaris gets something to really bully it out. But I don't see many options left. I think SMG are just lining up with what worked last time. And the patch did come out. It is like a sub-patch. I don't think the tweaks are enough to throw off this playstyle, despite the nerfs to Venge as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Venge nerfs were like, yeah, the illusion just lower movement speed, and it has like the normal Venge HP, which is kind of nice. Undying got a buff though, John. I know you were very happy about that, but Undying, for some reason, because Icefrog apparently wasn't watching the games last night, got a buff. So even stronger now, the core Undying is. And I believe in this game, we are seeing what appears to be an offlane Undying, unless they want to take a note out of Tino's book and run a safe lane Undying. Though I think core Undying still, in the offlane, the POS 3 Undying still does the exact same thing, just less farm priority. But I must admit, it did seem very, very busted. So I guess it's going to be a bit of fun watching this here from Polaris.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that affects core Undying with a build-up is Echo Saber's slight nerfs. It's not particularly a huge nerf, like mana regen down from 2.25 to 1.75, so 0.5 off, not too bad. Bonus strength from 15 to 13, not too bad as well. It mainly affects Tiny and Pango with Swash and Toss, like Tree Toss, so it doesn't really touch the Undying too bad. It's still fairly good in what it does. It's just a double attack with a shard that can be really valuable. Heck, just the instant slow under a tombstone can be pretty annoying. So we'll see if that is something Polaris will look for on the offlane. Keen to see if that will go to Nico or to Natsumi, as you could still run Clinks mid and have the Undying safe lane and have something else off, or you could run Clinks off, although we don't see that too often. Could still come out. So you kind of can toss these around in different core positions. I think SMG... they don't really have the best answer for Undying on one. They do at least have the Aphotic Shield, which will be helpful to a certain extent, but the Alk and Abaddon are going to be pretty bullied out by the Undying. Decay is just going to constantly annoy you. You do have a decent tomb hitter with Avenge, and she can scout the high ground, like, say, cliff spots or warding spots where the tombstone might drop. So you can kind of focus in on that. She doesn't have the best attack speed until she does get items up, though. And on the offlane, we almost always just see the Ags. So maybe this time around you might have to prioritize more Agi coming through. SMG do pick up the Gyro, which is a core that does play with that minus armor on the Venge and Alk quite nicely. And we have seen a lot of ways of laning with the Gyrocopter. You can go max flak, you can prioritize Rocket Barrage for early presence. So there's a lot of ways to flex that around. I think if you are considering the Undying offlane from Polaris, the Gyrocopter doesn't feel too bad. If Tinks goes out, you can just play with Flak, max it out, get some stats, and still clear out the creep wave.
Yeah, absolutely. See what this last pickup is here. Polaris. final pickup. Does appear they need a mid lane, maybe even a safe lane, depending on where they want to put the clinks. And they are going to go for the Void Spirit. So it is going to be a mid Void coming out here. Fair enough, both drafts looking pretty standard. Nothing too surprising apart from maybe the Snapfire. Even then, though, I think Snapfire is, still okay as a hero, and Boomy does tend to play it quite a bit on his end. I think the base HP regen buff is quite nice, though. Like, it's up to 0.75 now, and that's one of the things that was being changed a lot of this new patch is the base mana and HP regions of multiple heroes kind of being buffed pretty much. I don't think I even saw one nerf to those base HP and mana regen values. So I mean, that could make the difference. As a support Snapfire, you do tend to want that extra bit of regen. Does feel quite nice. But yeah, ultimately all heroes looking very similar. Very keen to see how the Coddle nerfs affect Moon here in this mid lane. I feel like the hero still does a very similar thing. It's just a bit more awkward and a bit less efficient at being able to farm up and escalate so fast. But it still does the exact same thing.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think it's just slightly easier to avoid the Illuminate now with a move speed reduced by 150, the damage scaled down by 125 level-wise, but at max it's like a 25 damage reduction, so once you hit max level Illuminate, doesn't feel too bad. The 2-second cooldown increase can be annoying, but you still have Chakra Magic, so it still doesn't feel that bad, and I think that just makes it a bit more manageable. It still is really strong with the timings. Again, what I'm keen to see is how badly the slight nerf to stacking goes, because Keeper of Light and Gyrocopter are highly affected by that, and I think that might throw the timings off very, very subtly there for SMG.
Okay, fair enough. We'll get into it, John. Game number 1 of the night between SMG and Polaris set to begin. Of course, we will have a quick gander at the N1 bet odds, see what's going on here from the betting scene. What are the odds? Who's everyone favoring? SMG, $2 to about 6.45. So, I mean, pretty heavy favorites here, about 3-to-1 odds in favor of SMG. Again, I don't think you can really underestimate Polaris. Like, they just got together as a team again. So it's understandable there's gonna be a bit of time kind of gelling together, but ultimately they do still look pretty solid, and you can kind of see the moments of brilliance that does come out from this team. Just needs to maybe just a bit more time together will kind of do the trick here. There's Rogi. Mid lane, he does this pretty much every game. Just rushes forward. Tries to check out the Observer Rune. The Observer Ward spacing there, but doesn't find one. Bit of an awkward cookie onto Nico as well, as he just kind of turned around and went the other way.
30 seconds to battle.
I think being forced to get level 1 Cookie to look for the first blood opportunity feels a bit awkward. Like, if you had Little Shredder, once you get a couple of decay stacks off, the minus armor does make it really easy to melt through some of those softer targets, so maybe delaying first blood timing there for the Undying Snapfire lane if they don't manage to get something from this clump up. They are still pressuring in the bot room spot.
They are. Could be a fight breaking out. Nico, though, a big decay, already finding 3 targets, but won't bother trying to force the fight. He is pretty low on regen on the Undying right now, so doesn't really want to lose too much HP, I think. See how he does do, though. And we may as well start with the offlane while we're here, John. Of course, Nico going to be on that offlane Undying. Going to be supported by Boomy on the Snapfire. You are going to have mid 1 there on the position 1 Gyrocopter, and of course Rogi on the Abaddon. Though I dare say this offlane from Polaris does seem very potent, very powerful. Does seem like there's going to be a lot of kill potential in this laning phase.
Yeah, I think for mid 1, all he needs to focus is on CS. You can't really fight into the Undying. Just makes it really awkward. And of course, the Abaddon is a melee hero. Kind of has a hard time just running up to Undying because of the threat of decay. And running up to Snapfire from the threat of her nukes and stun is pretty annoying. So I think mid 1's likely to go for the flat cannon build. Focus on just farm and just staying back from the creep wave with the added range you get from flak and just clearing out as much as you can. We'll see. Initial level, again, because you did go for Cookie on Boomy, there's not much kill opportunity with the Undying. You definitely would have preferred going for your nukes, as once decay stacks up, your HP goes down. It's easier to melt through that low HP target with minus armor, and it's easier to just blast them down. No, they will go for the Cookie play.
Yeah, I mean, Rogi's already getting very low, just 480 HP, and I mean, I feel like you've got to abuse this Undying, even if it is very strong as a core right now, and Rogi, well, he will be able to get a pretty big value stick usage there on the Abaddon, just with that extra decay out from Nico, but definitely will have to be very wary of his own positioning. Of course, over in the mid lane, Moon and Mac going at it. We've seen Moon on this Coddle many times. It did get nerfed, but we'll have to see if it does affect Moon on the Coddle. And of course, the Void Spirit there by Mac, currently leading in terms of CS and not really struggling whatsoever against this Keeper of the Light. So definitely great news for him.
Yeah, you do want to get as much as possible while the damage output isn't that amazing. Oh.
Mid one ends up going down. Nice setup there, it seems like, from Nico and Boomy. I believe it would have just been a cookie into some decays, and of course you can already see the soul rip on cooldown. So again, I feel like they just can't underestimate the potency of this offlane.
And we've got to play it safe. Flak is up for mid one. Just needs to play from afar, get his CS out. Raji needs to just really put his body forward, keep trying to bait them to focus in on the Abaddon instead, and just play passively. Like, you just have to focus on that CS. Moving back to that point about the Keeper, Mac is having a good time. Again, for Moon's part, I'm just keen to see how much less he farms from stacks just kind of getting slightly nerfed. So, slightly less gold coming through from stacked up camps. That probably hurts the Coddle the most here. Gyrocopter an extent as well, and that should actually impact SMG's timings, because they have two really farm-heavy heroes.
Raji's getting very low again. We'll make it out, but they're diving the Undying. They're trying to get that damage and the pressure off onto Nico, but it can backfire very quickly if you're not too cautious. Over in the bot lane, though, we'll have a quick look at this lane before things get going at top. Arfu and KP against CML and Natsumi. We've seen this lane before. Very devastating with the minus armor, and now they are going to move in onto Natsumi. A lot of damage out with that unstable concoction. Natsumi still going to try and run. KP, bit late with the Wave of Terror there, but ultimately may have thought he could secure the kill with that Wave of Terror damage. Just wasn't the case, and eventually Natsumi is going to be able to heal up. But top lane, looks like the dive is once again onto Boomy, but Nico going to turn. Rogi does avoid the stun, however they might have enough, and they do. Rogi will die for the first time this game. Be another kill to go the way of the Snapfire. The second of Boomy's game thus far. And again, SMG, this safe lane, just not turning out to be very good.
Yeah, it's... Again, they just need to put the Abaddon's body forward. I guess in that case, you're not too upset. It's the Abaddon dying. You're still getting out space for mid one. It's still doing well in CS. So Nico is not really zoning out the gyro. He's just trying to abuse the support kill. And that's really what you want in Undying anyway. So we'll see if SMGs is getting enough with the initial farm here.
Well, it's kind of going back the other way as well in the opposing offlane. Like KP and Arfu, they are running this very interesting offlane duo. And they do finally kill off Natsumi. We have seen this one before many times by this point. Does feel like by the level 3 mark, you do just have insane amounts of damage with the level 2 Unstable Concoction and the level 2 Magic Missile. And Natsumi obviously struggling a little bit here in this safe lane to be able to keep himself alive. And you can kind of see it reflecting in the CS as well, as now they make the jump back in. Wave of Terror out. Natsumi, he won't die this time, but he is going to lose about half his HP as KP. He's not done yet, but does see CML and will eventually back off.
Yeah, they didn't quite have the mana for the Acid Spray. There was a free Mango, but they weren't really able to use the Acid Spray efficiently if it dropped. And of course, it was a bit too close to the tier 1.
Rogi, top lane, ends up dropping. Looks like he was just trying to stack up for his Gyrocopter and, of course, Keeper of the Light, but Polaris being very clever, invading early on thanks to the information provided by Boomy, and they will take those double stacks away. And luckily, I suppose, for SMG, they are just double stacks, but it is still free gold going the way of Polaris and Mac.
Yep, it's important to deny that from the Gyro and Coddle to stall out those item timings. So they do the right thing. They even got a nice ward, although it is taken out by Raji. And as long as they keep applying pressure in the jungle, I think you make things highly uncomfortable. Like, mid one can be a bit more aggressive in the Gyro, but the tendency is maxing flak. You're not going to show up way too early on until a couple of items are up.
Well, Rogi again in a bit of danger. Level 3, he will have the backup of Moon though. Moon will make sure he does remain alive on that Abaddon, and eventually Mac, he won't really take much harass anyway. In fact, he finds himself 2 bounty runes to boot, so great news for Mac. He will bottle both of them up. Extra value there for our Void Spirit. SMG, I suppose the one big bright side for them right now, is mid one, considering the lane and how much pressure was being applied onto them, is still CSing extremely well and is still about 400 gold ahead of Natsumi. So off lane's working out, safe lane kind of evening out for SMG. In the mid lane, it's still keeper of the line, so Moon is top of the net worth board. But I suppose Mac kind of keeping up is definitely really good news for Polaris.
Yeah, it's not quite the overwhelming start you'd expect from Moon on his hero. Now, he does still have a couple of stacks to clear out, but he hasn't really been able to find a couple of kills as well. It's a bit harder to hammer in the Illuminate with the travel speed down, and I guess that added cooldown is a bit more painful than spamming the spell out. Like, those 2 seconds really do count when you're trying to pump out DPS, so we'll see if it does improve over time. You can see the side of Polaris lining up for the top push. They are just going to shove in the wave. Their push is not particularly fast, but with the siege creep, they can sort of sustain it for a little bit longer. The side of SMG, they're just building up the stacks, clearing out the stacks with mid one. They're not quite in position to pressure the bot lane yet. So if Polaris do fully commit, they should be able to find that first tier 1 with no trade.
Yeah, it looks about that way. Nico, he can just kind of indefinitely tank this tier 1 if it does aggro him, but he's going to let the creeps take over for now. But he can certainly just take over is towards the right side, mid one again. He's going to be intercepted while taking those stacks and is going to be taken out. I love the way Polaris is playing this so far. Mac, he's going to try and TP away. Is there a way to cancel? No, there definitely isn't. Mac gets out scot-free. Gets the kill he wanted onto mid one. And you've really got to love the aggression here from Polaris. They're just making it a very, very difficult kind of time for SMG to run this kind of stacking game that they want to play.
Yeah, they still have control in their jungle. We've still got the wards, but the vision game is also there from Polaris, and they're able to abuse that early mobility on the Void Spirit, the early damage output he has just with the support on hand. You don't have the tankiest chorus on SMG. Keeper of Light most certainly not tanky. Gyrocopter without items, not the greatest feeling here as well. He does have a good amount of armor, but the magic damage right now from Polaris just rips through his HP. They are still trying to shove in bot though.
There are going to be rotations. Polaris going to show up. Nice cookie from Boomy. CML needs some help. Kisses are going to fly in. Arfu in danger and is going to drop. But they should be able to at least get CML. Still KP now is in the spot of danger himself as Boomy was rushing forward, but will dodge the Illuminate out. Natsumi still on the chase, thinking about cancelling the salve, and now Max shows up. A great Aether Remnant, and now the blow-up Boomy. Shotgun to 2. Moon illuminates there, but is it going to be enough to keep him alive? It looks like it just may be as Mac now. He's going to be in danger. Moon wants to try and clean this up. Mac still on the run and might make it, though. No, Moon does find him out. Still, I think, a great team fight for the side of Polaris. At the very least, Moon does clean up in the end, but seemed like Polaris did eventually come out on top.
Yeah, it's way more worthwhile for Polaris. You managed to get a couple more kills there. SMG, they're gonna be happy enough to get a couple of kills on Moon, and they do find a tier 1 bot. So they get that tower trade in the end. The side of Polaris are still keeping the pressure on mid though, and Nico's just keeping his presence up there. He is saving up for what looks to be the Echo Saber eventually, and isn't too far off. I mean, he's at least gonna have the staff up.
Nico, he gets swapped in, but he's an Undying. He's more than happy to tank the front lines. KP, he'll barely survive mid one. He's going to move in. Homing missile, Nico, he's finally going to drop. The Illuminate flies right through by Moon. And mid one, I mean, farm or no farm, the man wants to show up and help out the team. That is exactly what he'll do. I suppose they could try to set up onto this tier 1 mid tower with that siege creep. Looks like the rest of SMG, they are already preemptively backing off. KP, the only one still around. So they are just going to let the siege creep go.
Yeah, they still manage to relieve some pressure on their own mid. They stop the push in its tracks. They get some good punishment off. Really interested to see mid one actually showing up early, and his itemization has been shifting around, although CML is scouting him out.
Yeah, again, Mortimer's kisses are there, but the impel does not connect. Had that impel been there, you would have almost certainly had a kill onto mid one. Still, he is sticking around, and it's a very dangerous play to make, but now Mac misses. Aether Remnant, not going to land mid one, juking out nicely. And eventually, he will be able to go back to farming in peace. Polaris will have to get back to the drawing board and Well, they've got to try and land these spells, because again, mid one, he really should have just been dead there.
Yeah, I mean, again, keen on what mid one's building. He's going Satanic Rush on the Gyrocopter, perhaps just opting to go for the extra Trent because he knows he's playing against Undying and Clinks, high burst heroes with really good amount of damage. He just wants to be able to stand and fight. I'm not sure if this is going to be enough. It is a rather different build that we're seeing from mid one, but he has done this a couple of times on different heroes, like say the Deso Russian Monkey King, which, you know, is not as common as the standard Echo Saber sort of build up. So we'll see if this does pay off. He is starting to clear out the triangle with the Morbid Mask. This should not be an issue, and all things considered, he is, you know, not doing amazing in farm, ahead of Natsumi's Clinks, but not by much, like 300 gold ahead. He's behind Nico on the Undying, behind Mac on the Void Spirit, and that all leads to pretty good spikes for Polaris to still play around with. Like Mac, his Ags is just about 2,300 gold away, so it's fairly close, and once you do hit that Ags timing, the silence is going to really break the Keeper for Light. To an extent, the Gyrocopter, if he doesn't have that Satanic up with the Dispel. So you will have the tools to handle those big cores on Polaris' end, and they are still playing relatively aggressive, although they have slowed down the pace a bit. You know, they've got the Maelstrom up in Natsumi, just clearing out some stacks, clearing out some farm, building up. There will be a smoke play though. Boomy, CML, and Nico looking for something.
Yeah, that they are. Once again, same spot. Into that Dire jungle, but this time mid one, he's not going to be around. Mid one currently hanging out of the triangle now with the life still. He is able to kind of just tank through it. You know, he does have the help of his team nearby as they are kind of reading the movement of Polaris. KP, Wave of Terror, is actually going to connect onto Nico. Mac trying to bait them in. Swap is going to be there. Mac, he's dropping fast, but will step away. Now the Tombstone is going to be down. Mid, or rather, Arfu does jump in. However, Mortimer's Kisses are flying in. He's taking so much damage, and eventually he is going to drop to Boomy. The Tombstone, it's going to be left behind. They'll let it go down to SMG. They got something for their smoke, and that's going to be enough.
Not quite the big pick-off they wanted, and I think that will stall out that mid-tier 1 push. They were collapsing at the right moment to force a push right after the fight, and Alchemist dying is not enough to really commit, and because of the Tombstone placement, they couldn't really put their bodies forward with the protection the Tombstone provides as well. So I think SMG are still happy despite losing the Elk. They avoid taking bigger losses. They're still trying to build up on mid 1, and that Satanic's actually inching closer, just 800 gold away. Mid one has climbed above Nico now in farm with that little downtime he had to just free farm, and it's now number 2 in net worth. So again, Satanic Rush, Gyro, he doesn't have the Scepter to have that Gunner just auto fire for him while he's maybe controlled up or stunned up, so you're not getting the full value yet, but you could eventually just farm up the Ags. This isn't really a farming item though, the Satanic, so you will have to join fights early, and I'm just curious whether or not mid one will fully commit to the fights once that's up.
We'll see. We should point out as well, John, like Moon with his farm, generally by around this time, you'd kind of see him about 5-6k ahead of the other mid laner in net worth, but that hasn't been the case. Mac, he is behind, but it's only about 1.4k. So maybe the nerf's kind of kicking in here for the Coddle. Or it could just be the way Polaris has been playing the jungle on the Dire side. They have been very aggressive. But so far, Moon's net worth definitely not what it used to be just a day ago. As now, Polaris going to group up. 4-man smoke, Natsumi. He'll remain behind and just keep farming up. Arfu, he's around to break the smoke, and instead they're going to find Rogi. Not an easy kill, but eventually they will get through him. They even drop the Tombstone on the high ground just in case more heroes were coming in. Polaris, can they get an objective out of this though? Does seem like they want that mid tower. Stun Arfu, he ends up stunning himself. Natsumi actually cancels his own TP, I believe. In the end, it won't matter. Polaris, they are grouped up to help him out if need be. They just want the mid tier 1 tower though. And eventually they should be able to get it. In fact, Nico, he's going to move in onto Arfu. Arfu, yeah, he's trapped up now. There is no way out. And Polaris, they are just freely going to walk away with about everything they could have asked for. Assuming they finish this tier 1 tower off, and they are going back for it, and it should get done. Moon is just making it annoyingly hard. And no, they're going to back off. They're going to leave it be. but it does get denied anyway.
Middle tower has been denied.
That still opens up the map here for Polaris. It makes their invasion into the jungle a lot easier. It makes it easier to pressure mid-1's farm and to pressure Moon's farm. It's been a bit tricky for SMG to get that running start on Moon because of how often he has to show mid, how few stacks they can build in the top jungle. And the side of Polaris are not resting. They're still grouped up as 3 heroes. They're still looking for spots on the map to find kills, and they see Moon.
But they do, Moon. He's going to avoid the gank for now, so definitely great news for him. Still working on just getting to that Dagon 2 point, and he does have the recipe, just working towards the 3rd recipe for the Dagon 3 now. But again, it's just a much slower timing than what we're used to seeing on his mid-keeper. How's mid one?
Radiant's middle tower.
He's working towards that BKB now, so just really a defensive kind of itemization. I suppose, again, it does make enough sense. You aren't really lacking damage right now. You have the coddle for that. Mid one, he just needs to be able to survive through these fights, and he just needs to be able to keep farming on the gyrocopter, quite frankly. You just don't need that big kind of damage output yet, because you are playing for the late game anyway.
Yeah, in terms of stalling out, this will help. And again, it helps him sustain against the man fight against the Clinks, because the Clinks pretty much out-damages you, just in terms of your right clicks and your steroids. Burning Barrage will just rip through a gyro with no strength, and he will lose strength with the Undying on top. So it should allow him to just stand in front, pop Satanic, get a couple of hits, get damage off for his team anyway, and eventually try to go from there. You're also about to hit this Ag's timing on KP, so the Venge will not have to worry too much about throwing its life away. It's still gonna have that presence with, you know, your illusion up. It has lost some of its bonus speed, and it does actually show with hero bars now, so it's not very hard to miss. Should be easier to focus down. We'll see if that's gonna be a factor as they clump mid.
Yeah, Matt, a fair bit, but does avoid the magic missile, and eventually will just astral step his way out. But SMG, with a double damage rune on mid one, can go for that tier 1 mid tower, and it looks like that's exactly what they intend to do. Polaris, they are kind of scouting them out and trying to find a way to join this fight. KP, maybe the target, but no, Natsumi, he's been caught. Call down is there, Natsumi, he gets the BKB off in time. KP's gonna drop, mid one, in trouble, still trying to survive. Satanic's on cooldown though, can he lifesteal enough? Mortimer's Kiss is flying in, it's just so much damage. They do at least get Mac down, but mid one's gone. Nico, he might drop as well. Decay, trying to tank him up even further, but KP swaps him back in, and eventually they will be able to kill off the Undying. So you tell me, John, which team came out on top of that team fight?
Does feel like it's rather even. I think if you look at the fight recap as well, it ends up fairly even. I think you feel better on Polaris' part because you kill mid one. I don't know if that's really enough though, because losing your Undying and your Void Spirit sets them back. They are fairly high net worth. It's still worth a lot more for SMG, considering that they lost a core and lost KP, I guess if you want to say that. Although,
yeah, CML caught out, nice easy pick off.
Yep, not the biggest kill. I think for SMG, their next spike is going to be the Ags on Afu, so he's probably going to gift that to our Gyro, which then really explains the Satanic, right? You don't need the Ags. You're going to have it for free from Afu, which we know he always farms up. There you go. So now mid one, next time that sort of fight breaks out, as long as he pops Satanic, even if he gets stunned up, it's going to be a lot harder to kill him off. And we saw that from Polaris' end. Like, the Satanic did provide a lot more time for mid one to stand there and fight. Once this BKB is up as well, you're not going to be able to stop him from just playing with his flak to the full extent of it. And SMG will smoke around that power spike. They don't have long cooldown ults to wait for, so they're just going to go for a nice take, and it looks like they will try to sneak a Roche.
Even the Brigand's Blade. You're always going to be happy to see that as a position 1 as Afu, dust up, Natsumi. Going to be spotted, but Afu, I don't think he can really catch up for the stun. And eventually will just stun himself. Towards the south, KP has been spotted out, and the 8th Remnant is going to lock him down with the follow-up Impel. They should have enough, but no. KP, he's going to be able to survive thanks to Rogi. Kisses to fly through, but he needs to cancel ASAP as mid one. He's rushing forward. The swap is there on the Snapfire. They are at least going to lose one, or maybe not. They'll try to help out. Boomy's down. Mac's in. KP's gone. But they've got Mac now. The Void Spirit. Towards the north, Nico, he's been controlled up. Mid one, he'll take care of the Tombstone with the Flat Cannon. It'll still bounce around the team fight. They'll get another kill for the side of SMG. There's Mac. He's still not out of danger yet. He'll step away and that should be enough. But KB is still on the chase with the swap up. They'll see him, Mac. Guns get knocked up to the cliff. He'll step back down, but now Arfu's around. Silence is there, but Arfu, no, he can't get the stun off in time. So Mac, he will barely be able to escape with his life intact. But the Roshan is now underway, thanks to mid one.
Yeah, he's been at it since after a couple of kills. He just went back into the pit, let his team do the work, and he's just running with it. It's not going to take long with a minus armor up on top now. Old Raji has to be careful about copying the Roshan as his bar time was on cooldown. Aegis does go the way of mid one. I think this is interesting to see, right? So it was a slower start for SMG. The item spikes were a bit slower. I think normally we'd see SMG at this point where they're Alk Venge at 18 minutes. So it's like a 4-minute delay, and I think that's mainly attributable to Polaris playing fast and the stacks being worth slightly less. So it looks like that impact of the patch is there, but it's only like a 4-minute stall out. And Polaris, they were playing really nice and aggressive earlier on. They're still lagging behind farm themselves now. Like their Clinks, Scotty's coming out next. That's a good foil to the Satanic on mid one. And that is going to help mitigate some of that healing, although it's not going to do as much once you pop the active, which is still a stupid amount of healing for the Gyrocopter to play with. So you still have to watch for his item usage.
Could be in danger. CML gonna spot him out. Impel is gonna land, but there'll be no follow-up to it. Mac, he's around, but just needed about 5 more seconds to really be able to get the initiation they wanted. It's one of the things with the Keeper of the Light. He just runs so darn quick. It's very hard to kind of keep up and get the initiation you'd like. Because now SMG, they TP down bot lane. They're going to start on the tier 3 tower. Moon, he does force the rotations up north. So it is going to take a bit of time for the full squad of Polaris to be around and really defend this. Might be a bit of a tough ask. Mid one very confident with the Aegis up. Stun is there. KP, he'll be targeted first, but he is a bit of a tanky target and is eventually going to survive as now he gets to swap off, but Natsumi has the BKB up. KP, he's going to drop it. We'll run with the illusion. Meanwhile, mid one dropping low, and Moon, he goes down to the Keeper. That's not great news for SMG whatsoever, as they might need a retreat, but mid one, he's been left behind. They'll try to help him out. BKB, Satanic, everything being popped. It's so much damage, but it's not enough to burst anyone down. And mid one, he'll leave the tier 3 tower behind as now Polaris are moving in. Aether Remnant is going to connect mid one. He is just by himself now. Orochi, he is behind him, but how much can he do to really help out? He'll try to keep him alive as mid one. Still flat cannons flying out.
God.
Still so much damage, but eventually he will drop. A full team wipe for Polaris. And SMG, that tier 3 tower on 9 HP, still standing. Polaris, I mean, that's a great team fight for him.
Yeah, they managed to make it work. Did cost a buyback in their Nyx, but they hold on to their high ground and to prevent SMG from clumping up. They managed to kill the Gyrocopter twice. There is damage issues for the Gyro going for this Satanic BKB. If you don't have any midway item to boost your right click up. But it felt close, like even without any sort of Daedalus, even without a Butterfly up, he was still close to killing off a couple of the softer supports. And Midwin's just going all in. He's just going for the Divine Rapier next. So, whoa. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to have to be really careful as he can still die up front. But I guess he was doing good damage. He just needed to kill off the heroes before he died. That's the solution.
There you go. Remnant. It's not going to be there. KP had the stun out, and that is just such a long duration. SMG finding another beautiful, beautiful kill there onto Mac. Definitely a great deal for him as they can go top tier 1 now and try to sort out that tower. Remind me, I think Sacred Relic was buffed, right? In this this new patch.
I don't.
It was.
So.
It was reduced by 50 gold. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big buff.
Boomy. Gonna get stunned up after you're gonna move in. Impel is there. KP gonna be left behind. He's gonna lose his life. We'll still have the illusion, but they will chase it down, and it's not quite as hard to take out as it used to be. Nice little pick off there from Polaris, and Well, SMG, I think you are at that stage of the game where you do have to just stick as a team and maybe just not get caught on your own like that.
Yeah, just a bit far forward after that kill on Mac. There was enough time to respond with tier 1 still standing, so they hit the TP point, find some punishment, and just get something in return. It's still a bit of a lead coming out from SMG. They hold on by 1k. A lot of that is under Gyro, and some of it's under Kotl, but mainly flowing into mid 1. He does have the Demon Edge up. Sacred Relic not too far off. Again, going to be slightly faster with 50 gold off. Great discount. I'm actually surprised they bounced that out, but didn't keep Divine Rapier cost the same somehow. So, 50 gold faster. Going to be helpful. Yeah, just about halfway there. So, mid 1's damage issue is going to be solved, and he's just going to be able to see whether or not he can kill them fast enough, and if that fixes the issue, because it was really just a damage issue in the last big fight he joined in. They're probably going to have to wait for the next Roshan just to be secure, but I could see SMG taking that risk going forward if they want to. I think the key thing starts to become Raji's positioning. He's got to be far back enough to keep the Aphotic Shield and the Mist Coil spam up to sustain mid 1 on top of that Satanic. Just ensure that he's not controlled for too long, and that should be enough protection to kind of keep him up. So Polaris, they've got this draft that played really quick early on. They did run to the jungle a lot. They did manage to get a couple of kills there and shut down the map a bit more, but it does feel like as the game goes late, the scaling starts to taper off a bit. Like Nico, he's pretty set up on his Undying. He's got the Blink. He's got the BKB. He is not opting for the Ag Shard, so he's not really going for that lower cooldown in Flesh Golem. But considering the pace of these fights, it does make sense. Like, they're not fighting often enough that Flesh Golem cooldown is going to be an issue. The zombies are still pretty nice, but maybe a bit unnecessary, it feels like, on the Undying. And I think as this game pace, again, goes later and later, SMG just feels stronger. Like, they can keep tooling up on KP. You get the Max Dagon up on Moon. He's got the Octarine for lower cooldowns as well. And
they got Boomy. Stun is out, and he's got no way out of this one. Nice pickup again from SMG. However, Mac going to jump in. KP, he's been caught out, and that's a much better target to get, and they've got him. In fact, Rogi, borrow time's already popped. They'll wait him out. Nico now with the chase down. They'll leave the illusion be. They'll go after the real thing instead on the left side onto Rogi, and Natsumi does get a very, very nice double kill. SMG, again, just kind of separated. Aren't going to be able to survive like that, and Polaris going to have even more time to try to get some more farm up on Natsumi.
Yeah, the Clinks is keeping up pace. At the least it's keeping up with Keeper. It's still lagging behind the Gyrocopter, but not by a huge amount at this point. Like a 3k gap between your two pause once is still a big item, but not unplayable. And Natsumi?
Hits Moon once. Silence is there for the Mindbreaker. He'll go in again with the BKB out. The Blinding Light will do nothing, and, well, that is a lot of damage. Nice little tip out from Mac. And that's just the Chrysalis. I mean, once the Daedalus is available, Natsumi, he's going to be hitting like a real truck. And, I mean, even with the Divine Rapier that is available on mid one, you've got to be very wary, because if that goes to the Clinks, I'd say the game's over after that point. I mean, it just gets very hard to deal with the Clinks with the Divine up.
Yeah, I think the key thing is the core-to-core matchup. Like, can you kill off the Gyre with the Satanic active and the Divine and the Flat Cannon going? Maybe the Clink survives, but the rest of his team might die in range there.
Mid one. Another Divine jump. If one doesn't work, you'll just have another one. No problem.
Why not? You know, we used to talk about Gyrocopter being one of the best Divine carriers. And so I'm not really too upset about this. I think you're at that point in the game where the only fix to these fights is killing them fast. And the only way to kill them fast is with way more damage. So you just skip the crits. You want to kill everyone fast. Get the Divines going. Just melt the entire backline. Like, there's not enough protection to really deal with that unless you start building up Aeon Discs. And we do have one on the Nyx, as I say it. So there's some protection for some of the heroes, but not all of them. There is an Ag's timing here on Boomy. So do have the Gobble up to try and save. But it is slightly less impactful than you think, and you break a smoke.
They do. TML, Dust, not actually going to reach on the Nyx. He's going to be just fine. Top lane, oh, Moon. is just getting demolished here by Natsumi. They try to reach and go for a fight. Mid one, he's going to go for it. Natsumi does spot him out. Mac, 8th Remnants off the mark. Be able to land anything. Natsumi, though, still waiting around. Sentry is there. Nico jumps in. Mid one, pops the BKB. He's got the Divine Rapier. The damage will be there, but he's going to aim the Tombstone first, and that's exactly what he does, as CML's already gone. Nico will be chased. KP, he drops as well to Natsumi. They want the Undying, though. That's a target they really want to take down before the team fight really begins, and they'll get it. But Natsumi, he's on to mid one now. But can he deal with the Divine Rapier? Boomy jumps in. Scatterblast is there. Mid one, he's dropping low. Gobble up is out as well. The stun, they've got him locked down, but mid one, he's still going to be able to heal up through it, and triple kill is out. He will survive.
He
No
was
killing
saved
mid
by
one
his
today.
side gunner. It was his side gunner. He popped the Satanic, and even though he was stunned for a bit from the gobble up, well, side gunner hits, he heal up, and he just hold himself. So it looks like the theory mid one had is paying off. He just needs to kill everyone to survive. Of course, Raji's positioning there was on point. I think the missed coils and aphotic shield usages were pretty good. He didn't manage to dispel a couple of usages, but they were trying to stack as much as possible. Natsumi's still trying to go for the kill, but the Roshan is starting here.
Got the Daedalus up. This could be some nice timing, but they've got in that Roshan pit ASAP. 8th Remnant's going to give a bit of vision. CML does get in. Mac, he's in as well. Step is there. Mid one, he's got the Aegis up. A lot of damage being dealt, but not quite enough. He's got the shards up now. He's going to take it for himself, so the Rocket Barrage and the homing missile now up, and that did get buffed, to be fair. Is a bit stronger now.
Yeah, like 25 more range, so I guess it does do more damage chasing faster targets. Keen to see if he actually does pop it. I feel like you just give it to Afu, so you have a buff. There you go. So there's Berserk Potion to fly onto mid one, and then he gets to hit really, really fast. A lot more value there. It reminds me of, again, this goes back to something that Boom did with their lineup, right? Like, they had a gyro and they just drafted like 4 heroes to buff it. This time, not quite as many heroes, but the Venge in a certain way buffs it up. The Abaddon in a way buffs it up. The Alchemist now literally provided the Ags, and is going to be tossing the Berserk Potion out. So you have more going in there to dispel the gyro, to have him just man up, and that Divine Rapier is just paying dividends now. Polaris, they're still in the game. They're not out by a huge net worth swing. They've still got a lot of damage flying out in Natsumi. I think the key thing is he's got to kill off at least that Abaddon. The Aphotic Shield and the Mistcoil are keeping the gyro barely alive long enough to get the damage off.
We're going to move into that bottom lane of Barracks now. Polaris. Going to be a bit of a hard defense for them to try and go for, but they'll have to commit, I think. Swap, though, is there. CML being caught out already, and Aindos is propped. However, they go after KP, and they've got the Venge down, but he's got the illusion up. Meanwhile, mid one, a lot of HP being lost, but the Satanic is going to be popped, and he will barely survive, as now Natsumi goes back in after the Gyrocopter, but mid one, he's happy to man fight this. Tombstone down as well, stuns out. They've got Natsumi, no buyback available on the Clinks, and now Nico, he'll be chased down on the Tombstone. Rather the Undying, Nico, he's just going to melt. So much damage. And there is a Tombstone now down, but mid one, he'll happily claim it for himself, and he wants tier 4 towers. And without the Clinks, it's a very hard ask. The defense of CML is just about going to drop to the flat cannon, but will barely get out with his life intact. Mac jumping into the back lines. He's going after the creep wave instead, but mid one again just doesn't care about that. He's on to the Ancient now. Buyback is there from Nico. You still haven't got one on Natsumi. He's 300 gold short, and mid one, he is literally ignoring them. They'll gobble up and throw everyone in, but it won't matter. He's not even hitting heroes right now. He's just after the Ancient, and he's got it. Surely, they are trying with the stuns out, but GG's called. Triple kill out to mid one, and a great way to start the day for Team SMG.
Yeah, it's a great look for them. You know, they managed to pick up the Venge and Alk. They managed to get the Kotl once more down mid. Heroes that were slightly touched up. Overall, not enough to really put them out of the meta. I think the key thing was the timing difference we saw, down to a couple of factors as we talked about. Like the aggression from Polaris in the mid game was really good. They were going into the jungle very early on, taking some early stacks away. And then at some point they sat back and farmed as well. I think that was really their downfall. There was still space out for mid one to farm. There was still space out for moon to farm. It was slightly slower. I think we are feeling the effect of that 15% stacking gold reduction, but not by much. I think overall SMG's timings compared to the previous games were like 4 or 5 minutes off. And that is enough time to do something, but Polaris just didn't manage to make use of that longer delay on the power spike. And Team SMG, well, if you give them all the heroes they love to play, they still have the same timings and still have the same spikes to me. It's just really interesting on mid one to opt for that Satanic, but it did pay off.
It certainly did. And with that, we are going to head to a short 10-minute break. And right after that break, we're going to be back with game number 2 between Polaris and Team SMG.